Greetings, everyone. My name is Mitchell Devon. I am Florence's nephew. My dad was her little brother, Joe Devon. I have known Florence all my life as Aunt Teedle. A point of great interest about my aunt's early life is that my grandmother, Edna Devon, Aunt Teedle's mother, had a vision from God that moved her to uproot her entire family, her husband, and 5 kids from Seattle, Washington, and become missionaries to the islands of the Moluccas in Indonesia. The Moluccas are islands of paradise that look like they are at the ends of the earth if you're looking at a world map, and the other side of the planet if you're spinning a globe. When I think about that story and how remote from the family's comfort zone that was, my thought is, if that isn't faith, courage, and conviction, I don't know what is. I like to think of myself as a direct descendant of that vision, being half Moluccan and half Devon. My aunt and her family grew up as missionary kids, and this made them very cosmopolitan and unique in contrast to most people I knew growing up. You could see very strong cultural influences in my own family and those of my cousins' families and the places they lived because of it. Something that gave me an open mind from the beginning and allowed me to walk in different cultural worlds. Something that I love about being a Devon and my heritage. My aunt was the last surviving sibling of that missionary family and marks the end of a generation and an era. I first met my aunt when I was just 3 years old. My grandmother was having a family reunion at her home in Hacienda Heights, California, and my aunt was one of the first to arrive. Coincidentally, she was the same age I am today, 49. I remember her well, but by what I can only describe as her very affectionate cooing, because I couldn't really understand her yet. But that affectionate voice is something I would hear throughout my entire life. 5 years after that reunion, she had me come and visit her for the summer in Washington. I have always lived in Southern California, and I was excited for my first airplane ride alone. I soon learned that my aunt was a very blessed woman. She had married a wonderful man that we called Uncle Dick, and together they had a piece of paradise on earth that they shared with everyone they loved. This paradise was called Daybob Bay. Their home, to me, was like a national park in their own backyard. Their house went right over the water. For a kid like me, there was endless fun and discoveries to be made. I learned to catch fish, catch snakes, drive boats, kayak, snorkel, dive to the depths, find and bring up crab traps, dig for clams, farm oysters, night swim in the bay, play games. I got to go camping and sleep under the night sky. There would be parties and picnics every summer, and so many other kids would come and stay for weeks so we could all play and share in new adventures. Me and so many others got to share in this golden era that Uncle Dick and Aunt Teedle created together, and it would never be the same without them. I feel very fortunate to have been a part of the experience and to have witnessed it firsthand like many others in this room. Some of my life's greatest memories were made at Daybob. One way Aunt Teedle bonded with those that she loved was through games. My Aunt Teedle loved games. I remember bringing her this game called Smart Mouth, where you had to make words from 2 letters, and you would have to have a massive vocabulary and be lightning quick with words to play. I couldn't find much competition for the game, but when I brought it to Aunt Teedle, we had the most incredible battle. Playing long after everyone else went to bed. Her vocabulary and quickness at 90 years old was tremendous. I did feel that she kind of cheated me though, because she would use words I never heard of and made me look up the words in her Scrabble dictionary. She would also bond with my mother, wife, and children through the games, and they would come up with the funniest nicknames because of the games. Aunt Teedle named my mom Sharshai, according to the kids, and the kids called her that for years. I personally went through a deep depression as a youth from 9 to 13 years old, and for a couple years was doing very poorly in life and school. Aunt Teedle saw this and helped me by supporting me in moving to Arizona and paying for me to go to a private school. My years in Arizona gave new hope to my life and lifted me out of my depression completely. I would still go through trials and tribulations later in life, but that experience in Arizona allowed me to see that I have the power to transform my life. And I have been able to use that power time and time again. And looking back, I was always so grateful to Aunt Teedle for that. My Aunt Teedle told me about many of her trials and tribulations in life. And when she talked about some of her hardships, she would state facts and let me be the judge. I never once heard her put someone down. She would always say what was on her mind and be very blunt about what she thought about things. When I was young, she would always correct my words and grammar and etiquette, especially at the table. Her tongue could sting you, but if you stood your ground, I found you could learn and grow from it. I like that about her, to be honest, and I am going to miss it. Since she moved to California, our bond became very strong, and her home in Sky Valley was a perfect little holiday getaway throughout these past 20 years. My kids and I would rock climb and hike trails all over Joshua Tree and enjoy time in the San Jacinto Mountains in Idlewild and the surrounding areas, and use Aunt Teedle's home as our base and enjoy the resort amenities. But none of those things were as warm and inviting as my Aunt Teedle, and she was the reason we always made the trip. Those days are gone now, and I know we are all heartbroken, but my family and I are all so thankful for the memories. I loved that my Aunt Teedle made games the center of our bond whenever I visited Washington and here in Sky Valley. All the yelling and screaming and hair pulling had us going through a range of emotions, all while doing our best to remain good sports about it. In parallel, I can see that the games were also so much like life. And through the games, we could not only bond, but also know each other deeply again in very little time. For Aunt Teedle, I feel that life was much like a game for her. It was challenging and hard, but she always found a way to rise to the challenge and overcome. When she was my age now, she had finally learned to play the game so well, and her and Uncle Dick made a game many people could play and share in. But even when she had to play the game by herself again, she was still winning at life, still a good sport, and still held on to playing. Even during her last days, when she had to tell this grown man that she was finally done with playing the game, she kept her game face on and didn't cry. I did. And she kept playing the game, turning my tears into laughter. I am honored to observe my Aunt Teedle playing the game of life and to see firsthand how I might best play the game. In my mind, she was a game master. My family and I will cherish the memories we have of her in our hearts forever. Many of her best moves are now mine. I am so grateful and blessed to have had her in my life.
She had the greatest.
For all you older folks out there, if you don't have them already, find someone you can be an Aunt Teedle to. For all you young people, if you have an Aunt Teedle in your life, spend time with her, cherish her, love her, and find ways to bond with her. Make time for her and learn from her. Thank you.
It's beautiful. It has brownies, caramel, nuts, and cheesecake. Oh yeah, this is yours.